Hello everyone, welcome. Welcome to this short analysis session of IBPS PO mains exam that was conducted today. So what is in today's agenda? Let's go through it first. We are going to look at the nature of the paper, the type of questions that has come, and for that what we will use is that we interacted with our students and took memory based feedback from them of the kind of paper they had got, right. Obviously, as you can understand that because the board does not release the paper, so it's very difficult for us to actually state that what came and what did not come, but from the memory based feedback of the students who took the exam, we get a fair amount of idea what kind of questions came and what should have been a good attempt in it, and how you should have fared in that particular section. So that's what we are going to do today in this session. Look at what type of questions were there in each section, not in detail what questions, but the types in general, and section wise good attempts, in which section you should have scored how much, or you should have attempted rather how much, and discuss at the end what to do next, what should we do in the upcoming days, in the upcoming months, right, what should be our way forward. Okay, okay, chalo. So let's start with the reasoning section. Reasoning section, as you know, is a section of 45 questions. You get 60 minutes to do it and 60 marks is allotted to that particular section. So obviously there will be differential marking because there are less number of questions and more marks associated to it. And in this paper also there had been some 2 marker questions, some 1 marker question. So exactly which question had what marks, we do not know that, because again, as I said, that would only be clear when we have the actual paper in front of us. But these were the types of questions that came inside the paper. So there were puzzles questions. There were 20 to 25 questions based on puzzle. Now what was interesting this time was also that in the puzzles there were 2 to 3 puzzles which were large puzzles. I mean, there were 4 to 5 questions on them, but there were many puzzles which we had only 1 or 2 questions with them, right. So puzzle solving technique was to be used on those single or double question wale puzzles too, but you would be able to do only 1 or 2 questions after solving that puzzle. That obviously does not mean that those were difficult or those were easy, because from the feedback that I got from students, it was that they were mixed, right. Some long puzzles were also doable and some short puzzles were also doable. Some short puzzles were there which might not be so good to be taken inside the exam, right, because they would be time consuming. So it was a mixed bag, and that's what made the reasoning section a little bit challenging. Let's see what kind of other questions were there. Mostly universally, every student said that these questions, the next set of questions, the coded blood relations, coded syllogism, coded directions and coded inequality questions were those questions, those 9 to 10 questions were those questions which were doable. It was not much of a challenge on doing them, or at least most of them. Okay, so 6 to 7 were doable out of them very easily according to them. So which essentially says that there were questions which you would have to choose and do, and would be able to score something out of it. Then there was data sufficiency question, 3 to 5 questions, because see, as I told you that these are memory based papers, so I mean memory based feedback, so therefore we do not exactly know how many questions came, but some people remembered 3 to 4 questions, some people said a little more, so around 3 to 5 questions were there in data sufficiency, and 4 to 5 questions were in critical reasoning. Now what we came to know from students again was that the critical reasoning questions were a little more challenging, because they were framed, the answer was not forthcoming. You will have to think a little, you have to stop and think it through and then come. As I say, thought clarity is something that was very important in those critical reasoning questions. Okay, so this was the overall review of the reasoning section. So overall, what I gathered from our interactions with student was that the section itself was moderate, and there were tough questions. The challenge here was that there were tough questions and easy questions, but the easy questions were in between those tough questions, and you'll have to find out them. If you get stuck in one or two places, then there was a possibility that you would waste time in one set or two sets and end up not doing those questions which you could have done and scored from there, right? So that's what I suppose happened to some people who couldn't plan their paper well, who couldn't manage their time well inside the paper. See, 60 minutes was enough time, but if no time is enough time if you do not use the time well. So if you get stuck in a puzzle and you do not leave it to do questions that you can do, or if you get stuck in a critical reasoning question and you do not do questions which you could have done, you even do not go to the last question, you cannot arrive to the last question because you have not been reading all the questions. So these are things that can mess up your paper, and that has happened with some students as we interacted. If you could have avoided that, a decent score could have been there. Now, what is a decent score? What is a good score? Is something that must be coming in your mind. So, a good attempt. Now, when I say good attempt, I assume good accuracy. Okay, right. So, a good attempt with good accuracy is 20 plus marks attempt. Now, why I am saying 20 plus marks? Because I don't know which question was 2 marks, which question was 1 mark, right? So, 20 plus marks attempt is a good attempt in this kind of paper. From the way the students have given us feedback, we think that 20 plus attempts would be a good enough attempt with accuracy, right? Now you might say that okay, so that means that if we do not do 20 plus, is there no chance? No, even if you do 15 plus, and in an overall way you can compensate the score from other sections, there is chance for that too. So I'll give you two scores. One is a good good attempt, another is the chance attempt, right? There is a chance. Okay, it would be dependent upon the overall competition and your overall attempts and accuracy. Okay. So good attempt would be 20 plus in this, chance would be there is a chance kind of attempt is 15 plus in this. Okay. So that was reasoning section for you. Tough questions and moderate questions and easy questions all mixed up. Overall moderate section, moderate difficulty level section, but they were easy questions that could have been done if chosen wisely. Next, English section. Now this section has made a lot of students happy because they have been able to do a lot of questions out here, right? So when we interacted with our merit shine students, a lot of them ended up saying that this is something that can create a difference in us because we have attempted 30 plus, we have attempted 32, 33, right? So English section is something where people found it easy to attempt. Okay. Now having said that, there is a caution in out here. You see, in English section, it's not right reasoning, it's not like puzzle, that if you are not able to solve it, you would not able to mark it. Okay. In quant and in puzzle, if you are not able to solve it, you will not be able to mark it. But in English section, if you feel that that is correct, you can still go ahead and mark it. Okay. So it would give you a good feeling, but that doesn't mean that it would give you a good score. Having said that, the feedback that I received from our students was that there were questions based on the experience that they had from mocks. There were questions, the level of those questions were more doable than what they had faced in mocks, right? And which obviously is an indicator that the English section had been easy to moderate. So let's look at what kind of questions came in. So reading comprehension questions came in, 2 long RCs and 1 or 2 short paragraphs. Okay, came in, and the total number of the questions from passage based questions were 13 to 14. As I told you, long passages were only 2 and there were 1 or 2 short passages, and in totality there were 13 to 14 questions. Okay. Obviously the count varies from person to person from whom we had taken feedback, but this is more or less what it had been. Okay. So it can be plus minus 1 here and there. So that was one set. Now there is another interesting thing that came out and that came up in one of the previous exams of IBPS also, was that in reading comprehension or in the English section, they had included critical reasoning questions too, and that happened this time also. CR types, summary kind of questions were there, and there were 4 to 5 questions of that, and some students said that these were the questions which carried 2 marks. So if these were the 2 marks questions, so these were the questions that could have fetched you 8 to 10 marks. Okay, right. Now surprisingly, what they also said was, and it was corroborated by multiple students, that these questions in English, the CR type questions in English, were easier than the CR type question in the reasoning section. Okay. So if you see the critical reasoning application questions, where there were 4 or 5 in reasoning as well as in English. Okay. And the English one were more doable than what were there in the reasoning ones. Closed test 5 questions. Redundant word question, a lot of people had been telling that this is a separate type of questions, but most students said that if they had read the instructions carefully, these were very doable questions. There was nothing very out of the way difficult in these questions. Okay. So there were 4 to 5 redundant word questions. Word swap, sentence rearrangement together, right, mixed together, 3 to 4 questions, and sentence connector match the following 3 to 4 questions. So these were the list of the questions. As we can see that in English, the number of questions and the type of questions were more or less what had been for the past few years. So they had around 7 to 8 questions based out of word, and 4 to 5 questions from grammar, and then reading, comprehension, critical reasoning together were around 17-18 questions. So they have kept that proportion more or less the same. Now coming back to the difficulty level of it, obviously once I get the paper in front of me, then only I'll be able to tell you exactly what kind of paper it had been. But gauging from what our students told us, because they had been able to mark 30, 32, 33, right, in the English language section also. So they thought that what in mocks, if they were able to do 25 plus, they were able to do 30 plus in here. Okay. So that is an indication that maybe it was a little easier than what the mocks give you. Okay. So I'll put it in easy to moderate category. And from that only comes what attempts they should give. Good attempts with good accuracy. See, 25 plus marks attempt, obviously with good accuracy assumption, is a good attempt for you. Is a good attempt for you, no doubt. 20 plus marks attempt is a kind of attempt where you have a fighting chance. Obviously in that case you must have some other section which would be pushing you a little further, so that your overall score is somewhere which is in a zone where you clear into that interview wala list. Okay. So that is for English language section. Now data interpretation, data analysis and interpretation section. So 35 questions, you have 45 minutes for that, and 60 marks is allotted to it. Now if you look at the data interpretation section or data analysis and interpretation section, we see that data interpretation caselets, there had been quite a few, 3 to 4 caselets, and 15 to 17 questions from them. So there were pie charts, there were tables, and there was a judicious mix of different types of questions in it. Okay. Data sufficiency question, there were 3 questions. Number series questions, 3 questions. Comparison of quantities, 3 questions. Mensuration, 3 to 4 questions, and a miscellaneous 3 to 4 question, because students didn't remember exactly what kind of questions were they. So this was what the DA and I section looked like. Again, when we look at this section, what did we find as the difficulty level? Now a lot of students believed, who took SBI PO also, that the quant section or the D and AI section was more doable than what came in SBI PO, right. Even some students who had taken IBPS PO last year also said that in comparison to last year, this was more doable. Okay. And that also reflected in the number of attempts that they did. Okay. Again, 35 questions, 60 marks, obviously there is differential marking. A lot of questions would be 2 marker ones, and some would be 1 marker ones. So I hope those who have attempted paper today have already been instructed in our session of yesterday, which Abhishek sir took, and even in the analysis sessions, that please go through the differential marks. How much marks that question is carrying is important for you, right? Okay, so a 2-marker question would give you double the marks than a 1-marker question. And based on that, we told you, based when you look at the question, you look at the marks, and based on the merit of the question, decide whether you do it first or you do it later. Okay, so I hope that you have carried it, because if you have carried that plan forward, if you had made your paper strategy on the basis of the instructions that we had been sharing with you again and again, I am sure that you had found questions that were doable in this particular section, because this section was also in a way similar to the reasoning section, that they were easy questions, but those easy questions were hidden between some difficult questions. Okay, so if you had got stuck in questions which you were not very comfortable with, there would be much chance that you would end up with an attempt which is much lesser than what you were capable of. Okay, right. So what would be a good attempt in here? Again, with the assumption good accuracy, 20 plus marks attempt would be good attempt. 15 plus marks attempt would be a there is a chance kind of attempt. Okay, so 20 plus marks attempt, good attempt. 15 plus marks attempt, there is a chance kind of attempt. Now, the last objective section was general awareness BA FA. I mean, the last was not in the paper it was in between, right? The last that we will discuss here. So 40 questions, 35 minutes and 40 marks. I got that feeling that GA BA FA section was something which was very difficult, or they found it very difficult. Okay, why was it? Let's look at it. You see, first of all, the questions were across the board. There were different kinds of questions from different areas, right? Students are saying that the questions were December heavy. So some said that more than 50% of the questions were from December, and there was something with the nature of the question that was very interesting, and that what they said about it was that these were deep dive questions. Questions are not directly from who is what. Even if there was one question where they have asked which is not in the top 5, right? So these are deep dive questions. We don't really normally know about which is not in the top 5. We know about the top 3, even we can know about the top 5, but we don't remember which is not in the top 5. So these were the kind of questions that came in GA, which made it very challenging for the students, is what students say. And from what I could gather from students' attempts and what they said about GA was that a good attempt in GA would be around 20 plus. Now, what I could gather from our students, 20 plus marks attempt was good attempt, 15 plus marks attempt was an attempt where you still have a chance. Again, when I say these, I also tell you again and again, see if you get 12 or 13, do you have no chance? No, it's not like that. Let's say you get a 13, 14, but you get a 30 plus in one section. So obviously they would counter, right? Okay, so yes, there is chance, but from the understanding that I had from what I got to know from my students, I shared that with you. Okay. Now, the last section that we would look at was the descriptive section. Now, the descriptive section, as you know, is a subjective writing section. 2 questions were there, 30 minutes, 25 marks. Now, these were the questions. In essay, these are the questions that I could get hold of. There was one essay on modern technology have made our life more convenient. Another was surrogacy related topic. It was I don't know the exact topic, but it was related to surrogacy. And there were letters. Letter options were letter to branch manager for bank statement for some legal work that you have, and another option was letter to editor on protection or restoration of monuments. Okay. So these were the options. So pretty general topics. Anyone could have fared well if they have followed the techniques of writing, the advice that I normally give for writing well, in a straightforward and a simple manner. So if they have followed those instructions, they would have made a good job in descriptive section at least. Okay, so what is a possible score? See, in descriptive, it's not about attempt, because you have 2 questions, you must have attempted 2 questions, right? What is important is that what is a possible score. See, again here it is very subjective, because how the examiner has weighed the process of evaluating the essay letter, we do not know. If he or she is wired in a way that the scores would be in the not very high segments, then the scores would be even a 17 or a 18 or a 15 might be a good score. If he or she is wired in a way that the scores, when they are allotted, even if it is an AI, if it is allotted, when it is allotted, the AI allot a better score for everything that is right or everything that is correct, then a 20 plus is also possible. Okay, so basically 20 plus is a possible score, 15 plus is a score that should be, okay, looking at the kind of topics that were there. Okay, so this is what the overall paper had been, and this is what the paper looks like. So overall, what I would say is that 85 plus marks is a good attempt. 70 to 75 plus marks is an attempt where you still have a chance. Okay, it would depend upon your accuracy. Again, competition is obviously very high, so even competition would matter in here. When I am saying 85 plus marks, I am deciding on the basis of the interaction that I had with students, right? So if the competition is high, it might go up also. It can vary, obviously it can vary, but overall from the understanding that we gathered from our students, it seems like this is what it is. In descriptive, as I told you, 20 plus is possible, 15 plus is something that you can easily get. Okay, so this is what overall your attempts and scores should look like with good accuracy. Now, what next? Now, that's the very next and the biggest question now that lies in front of you. Should you go on with what happened in this exam and what you should have done, right? I don't think so, because what has happened has happened. See, when I gave you this analysis, this review of this exam, the purpose was very simple, that this is what it is, what we have gathered from what students have said, right? But that doesn't mean that you need to think about the exam that has already happened today morning again and again. So what next? Simple. 3 steps. 1, if you have IBPS clerk mains, sorry, typo error, IBPS clerk mains, IBPS clerk mains exam is on Tuesday, 25th. So if you have IBPS clerk mains, go on with that. Prepare for that for the next 2 days, devote to that IBPS clerk mains. Forget about what happened in today's exam, right? You know already what has happened, and understand one thing very clearly: what has happened in today's exam has no connotation whatsoever on what would happen in IBPS clerk from all angles. I mean, if you have had an amazing exam today, doesn't mean that in clerk mains exam also would be amazing. If you had a so-so exam today, it doesn't mean that your clerk exam would be so-so, right? So your clerk exam can still be amazing. If you had an amazing IBPS PO exam and you do not concentrate for your clerk mains, then you might end up not having a good exam there. So focus on the exam, just like the last 2 days you had focused on IBPS PO mains. If you don't have IBPS clerk mains exam, or you are done with your IBPS clerk mains exam on Tuesday, and you see that you have a fighting chance in getting into the next round, start your interview preparation. Start your interview preparation. There are 2 to 3 playlists that are very important for your interviews for your next round. You can go through those playlists. As time goes by, we would also come out with some other stuff which might be of help for your interviews. Okay, right? But start with your interview preparation. You would get full guidance on this channel already there in those playlists. Okay, follow those playlists. Now, for those who had not been able to do good in these exams, or in this year exam they had just tried their hand so to see how the exams had been, for all those who are targeting the next year exams, I would be of the opinion that you should start your next year's exam preparations right away. Don't dilly-dally, don't delay, right? If you think that it is the next year exam where you need to make your chances count, you should start right away. Okay? In that, obviously, if some of you are thinking of joining the batch that we are starting, the Merit Shine SBI and IBPS PO 2022 batch, for that, which would be starting on Tuesday after the clerk exam, 25th, you can enroll for that. The description section would have the link to the program page and the release program video. So go through it first, understand our style, understand how our program is, what our program is, and then decide whether you would want to join, and if you want to join, you join our program. Okay. And for those who are preparing for themselves, take help from the Merit Shine YouTube channel. There are a lot of stuff which would be of a lot of help to you, from basics to the advanced level. So go through the playlist, take full benefit of them. Okay, that would be all for today. Thank you very much. Bye bye and all the best.